Hello! The purpose of this video is to give you an insight into my educational advising services which accompany my private SAT, TOEFL, and ACT tutoring courses. Today I will clearly map out the SAT, TOEFL, and ACT facts as they relate to the US undergraduate college application requirements, namely Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts. Please note that most international European undergraduate programs may also require that you take one or two of the above tests in case you follow the school curriculum in English. So be sure to check the university requirements carefully, even if you continue your studies in Europe. Since the presentation of the facts in table format is self-explanatory, I will focus on highlighting the all-important timing issues and the most difficult aspects of these tests. This information will help you select the proper test when there is an option to do so, take these tests in the optimal order, and focus your attention during your test preparation. Timing is always key, so let's start by pointing out that the TOEFL IBT test is given 3 or 4 times monthly, as indicated by this chart sheet. Vienna test dates, right here, and Budapest test dates right here. While the SAT test is offered only 4 times between October and May, as indicated by these test dates. And the ACT test dates. By the way, all these test dates are international test dates, so it means testing location located in Europe. As such, you should first take the SAT so that you have sufficient time to retake the test if necessary and to take at least 2 SAT subject tests. By the way, even though the number of times you can retake the SAT and the SAT subject tests is unlimited, you are still confined to the number of few test dates available. The best, of course, would be to hire an excellent private tutor in order to avoid retaking these tests. After taking the SAT test and the 2 SAT subject tests, you can take the TOEFL IBT test. You can retake the TOEFL IBT test as many times as you wish, but no more than once in a 12-day period. Let's continue with reviewing the most difficult sections of each of these tests. So as you see on this chart sheet, the difficulty level is in the last row. And the first item, let's begin with the TOEFL IBT test, Test of English as a Foreign Language, internet-based. And the first item listed here is speaking to a computer in one shot. Most students have a lot of difficulty with this challenge, as they are intimidated by the fact that they are unable to speak to a live person and thus they cannot correct their speaking mistakes. Now this challenge could be handled, of course, with an excellent private tutor who provides you with speaking templates which give you confidence. Let's move on to the second item, shorthand note-taking strategies. And by this I mean extreme shorthand note-taking strategies, not note-taking that you are used to using at your prior education. So basically, the TOEFL test has 4 sections, but the hidden 5th section is note-taking, as during listening, integrated speaking assignments, and integrated essay writing, we encounter reading passages and listening that are not available to us while we are speaking or writing the essay, and thus we have to take extreme shorthand notes on them, as the time available to this is very limited. And we need to use these notes in the next 2 or 3 minutes, and thus we can use extreme shorthand note-taking, and an excellent private tutor can also help you with this challenge. Let's move on now to the SAT, Scholastic Assessment Test. And the first item you see here is academic vocabulary in context. Now, SAT has been revised, of course, and according to many, it became easier because it doesn't have vocab questions, but this is not correct, as vocabulary is still present, although it's tested in a very sublime, very subtle way in context during the passages, and the answer choices. And so you still have to deal with this challenge. Second item is committing silly errors during the math section of the SAT test. The math section is not totally difficult, but due to the extremely strict time constraints, students tend to make silly errors. And to avoid those errors, a private tutor can prepare you properly with standardized approaches to solving mathematics, and this way you can work quickly and efficiently without committing these silly errors. The third item is writing a 4-page critical essay in 50 minutes. In this challenge, you need to analyze someone else's speech or essay, and you have to devote 10 minutes to that. And so you're left with 40 minutes to write this 4-page essay. So basically you have 10 minutes per page. It's quite a challenge, and again, a good private tutor can help you with this. Let's move on to the most difficult parts of the SAT subject test. The first item here is selecting the right test. By this I mean, for example, taking Math Level 1 subject test is not a good idea because it is not accepted by some schools, especially the very best schools. Okay. Of course, you have to also consider carefully which subject test you take, depending on the career path you want to pursue, the degree you want to pursue. It must be usually relevant and challenging enough for the admission committee. Item number 2, not bringing your own CD player for language and listening subject test. Yes, you heard it right. I have known of cases where students forgot to check the CD player policy on collegeboard.org, and because of that, they showed up at the test and they weren't able to take the test since they didn't bring their own CD. Let's move on now to the ACT, American College Testing. And this is very, very similar to the revised SAT. Basically, the revised SAT has been revised based on the ACT. So they are very, very similar, although ACT is shorter, 3 hours plus writing, whereas the normal SAT, the revised SAT is 5 hours. But there is one important difference which makes the ACT, according to my opinion, more difficult. It has a science section. And science for many, many students tend to be difficult, or even if it's not so difficult, they have to prepare for it separately. And so I would say that ACT is still more difficult than the revised SAT. But of course, it's your judgment call. If you consider yourself a master in science, then you might want to make your own decision in this regard. Okay? So these are the most difficult sections of these tests. One more important inside information regarding paper-based tests such as the SAT subject tests, and the ACT. While it is advisable to sign up for these tests in time, if for some reason you might miss the deadline, you can still sign up as a waitlisted test taker. Few people know this, but test centers always receive a few more test booklets than the number of students officially signed up for taking these tests. If you're signed up as a waitlisted test taker, you will surely have the chance to take the test, provided that you show up among the first students on a given test day, and you actually give your name to the proctor along with the time of your arrival and your waitlisted status. This way, the proctor will know that you will be entitled to one of those few extra test booklets before waitlisted candidates, who arrived after you. In conclusion, when facing the decision of choosing between the SAT and ACT, or choosing the optimal SAT subject tests, you should consider the university requirements, your intended field of study, the highlighted difficulties in the light of your personal strengths and weaknesses, as well as your access to an outstanding private tutor. As discussed before, both the SAT and the ACT have their own challenges. So a great private tutor can help you with those difficult aspects once you have made up your mind about which test to take. For more on SAT, TOEFL, and ACT tutoring, please sign up for my private tutoring on my website. For additional mini tutoring courses, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Facebook.